Hello and welcome back. Welcome back to Align Soul, you guys. I'm so glad that you are here. I'm so glad that I am here. In today's video, we are going to be doing a pickup card, but a little bit differently. We're going to be really focused on right now on, as we're moving into the holiday season, of what it is that you can really release. We're going to be looking at basically what it is that you should release that is really not serving you. And as we move into the holiday season, that definitely tends to get triggered in all the ways. Maybe you have a lot of family get-togethers. Maybe you don't have any family get-togethers. Work occasions or things that where you have to spend time with people that might not be your absolute besties. We're going to be looking at how you can release the thing, because that's one thing when you figure out what it is that you need to release, and it's a whole other enchilada when you have to kind of figure out the how. So we're going to kind of talk about that today, and what is in store for you instead. What can you kind of do as far as self-care is concerned that I think that really going to help you. So without further ado, why don't we just dive right in? And please don't mind my nails because I messed up my manicure so bad it's not even funny right now. If you are brand new here, thank you so much for coming by. I'm so glad that you are here. Consider subscribing if you haven't yet already. We talk at least 2 to 3 times a week on this channel, and we chat about, obviously, oracle and tarot readings. This is designed for all signs, by the way, so it's for all of you, and it's a general reading. And we also dive into spiritual practices, tangible ways that you can really use spiritual practices on a day-to-day to just kind of make your life a little bit more easier, a little bit more at ease, and more connected. So if that sounds good, you would probably really enjoy it here. All right, without further ado, why don't we just dive right into group number 1. And here are your close-ups for the crystals. So here we have a beautiful labradorite piece. Hopefully the light is picking up how stunning this is. Then we have a zebra jasper. Super pretty. And blue lace agate. Here we go. Okay, time stamp in the description. Let's dive right into group number 1. Okay, group number 1, let's take a look and see sort of what's happening with you and what it is that you need to really release. Well, first and foremost, if you have chosen this crystal, I think that we need to kind of talk about the fact that you need to start trusting a little bit more on your intuition, a little bit more guidance from above, a little bit more guidance that is not coming from the outside, but it's really coming from within, really coming from the inside, really trusting all of the things that you have an intuitive hit about. Maybe it is about a person at work, maybe it's the direction. I feel like some of you are really asking some general questions like, which direction should I go into moving into the new year? Which should I be with this person? Should I not? Should I continue? Should I build some new things? Like, I feel like there's all of these different questions that are kind of lingering for some of you. And I think that you haven't really tapped into, or you're scared to tap into what if I listen to my intuition? Okay, let's see what you should absolutely release. You should release, so this is self-reflection. For me, this is all about really comparison of seeing other people as better than you, or seeing other people as they're further along than you. Really taking time to, like, I feel like when you're self-reflecting, for some of you, you might be kind of taking this a little bit more to the extreme, almost like you're dissecting yourself into pieces while you're really forgiving with others. Let's take a look at what you should release instead, or what you should, or no, how you should release this. Well, I think that what happens is when you're really dissecting all of the things that you have done, really looking back on all of the things that you have achieved and made mistakes on, and how you've done leading up to this point, I think that sometimes that can lead you down this really dangerous path of not only reflecting on things, but also it's kind of messing you up. And the way that you can kind of release that is really just take action, taking any action that really gets you moving forward. Because I think that when we are dissecting ourselves and on all the things that we have done and all the things that we are doing, I think that it can get us really, really stuck. So I think that it's more of a timing thing than anything. But the way that you can really just move forward is just take one step forward at the time. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that sometimes it's really important that instead of contemplating and talking about that job, you actually apply. Instead of talking about that business idea, you do the first draft, or you share it with someone, or you share it publicly. Or instead of, checking his Instagram account for the 15th time, you actually just send that DM. Like, I think that there's some really true wisdom in moving forward, but moving forward on a path that you actually want to be on, rather than just doing the thing that kind of keeps you busy. I feel like some of you guys have really spent most of your time procrastinating and using busyness as a form of procrastination, which can absolutely be true, but it actually gets you stuck on your dreams. So let's take a look and see what is in store for you instead. It's finding your own individuality, but also finding your own true flavor. I think that especially when we're doing this whole comparison game, I think that you can essentially lose that sense of who you are, because you're spending so much of your time really looking at a template of what other people are presenting you with. But keep in mind that some of those templates, it's so funny. Like, oh my gosh, this is so fitting. So sometimes you can look at templates, but keep in mind that those templates were just created as a guideline. Okay. So think of this message. This is so good. Think of this message like when you're editing your photos for Instagram and you buy a bunch of filters, or you're editing them in Lightroom and you buy a bunch of presets because they look really pretty, right? But keep in mind that those are guidelines, okay? Because I have done this too, where I would be inserting an image of me into Lightroom and I would be testing out that preset. And honestly, it makes me look like it's no longer me. And that's what this is talking about here, really. That make sure that you don't lose your own unique flavor. It has to come from you. Nobody can really fine craft the life that you truly want, because it's yours and it has to come from within you. You need to be able to create that for yourself. So let's see what self-care is here that can kind of help you along finding your own true unique flavor. You know what I mean? Yeah, flowing like water. But to me, this is all about really letting your emotions guide you, and also beyond this, to me, talks about flowing, which means that you need to release that grip on the comparison. Use them as a guideline instead. Start taking steps forward towards your goals and really find your own unique flavor and your own unique message if you're building a business. But also, this speaks to so much about flowing like water. Also means that you release that grip on controlling every aspect of how things unfold, which means that being flexible in a sense that you're no longer really have this strong attachment to whether this happens at noon or it happens at 5 p.m. It's still taking place within the same day. It's still manifesting the way that you want, but it's just not manifesting at the time that you snapped your fingers. That's what this is talking about, really. I think that we don't have to really beat the dead horse. I think that we're all getting it, that we need to kind of flow with it and get a little bit less controlling, a little bit more flowing. So that might mean that maybe the other person is going to be picking the restaurant, or maybe that means that we're totally cool with just the sweatshirt and sweatpants, messy bun kind of vibe, instead of having to kind of looking all posh all the time. These are just some examples. Okay, let's see what the tarot has to say. Okay, we have the star, we have the moon, oh my goodness, in reverse, and we have the page of wands. So let's unpack, shall we? So I think that, again, this goes back to the comparison. I think that when you go back to really not only what lights you up, but sort of like watering your own plants, watering your own well, like just really watering your own flowers so they bloom. That's what this means to me. But also the star also speaks to so much about really shining from within, right? So when you release this idea of constantly ripping yourself into pieces, then you can actually start and getting in touch, basically getting in touch with your emotions, but getting in touch with your emotions in a way that it doesn't get in your head, right? Like not letting your intuition. Yeah, moon in reverse to me, it's all about just really obsessing over trying to get an intuitive hit on everything instead of, or just simply refusing to listen to your intuition. You need to actually learn to listen to your intuition and start trusting yourself. That's what this means to me. And I think that when you start moving forward, then this can kind of happen quite effortlessly. And then let's take a look at this, because this is sort of in between these two. I think to me, these two things absolutely need to come together in order for you to start moving forward. And start moving forward, that forward momentum, that love message that you're waiting for, that email that you're waiting for, that job application that you're waiting for somebody to kind of take a look at. That will happen if you find your own unique way of doing things and really embracing it rather than trying to be like everybody else around you. Because really, we're all unique in our own way. And I think that really what Spirit is asking you is for this holiday season, as we're moving into the holidays, as we are going to be with a lot of people, just keep in mind, just be gentle with yourself and know that you are doing the best that you can, but at the same time, just don't rip yourself into pieces. This is all I have for you, group number 1. I hope that this has resonated. Let's hop on over to group number 2. Okay, group number 2, here we go. Here is once again your crystal. And let's talk about this just for one moment. To me, this is all about embracing the shadow. It's understanding that we all have the light and the darkness within us. And I think that when you get to the point where you're embracing that, yeah, you're really standing in the middle of duality. And I think that for this week in particular, it's going to be very important, especially when it comes to your relationships. It's understanding that sometimes the communication might be off, and other times it might just be that maybe you say the wrong things, or maybe it doesn't come out quite the way that you want it to, but also embracing that. And really, sometimes it's just letting go of the ego, right? Okay, let's see what you actually need to release. This idea of peace. But this idea of peace to me here really feels like, it's almost like this pretending that everything is peaceful, pretending that everything is in balance when things are not in balance. So to me, sometimes it can be, yes, seeking peace, but also not being in denial about, if there is chaos around us, or if there is sort of like that turbulence, like if you're going through a chapter in your life where things are feeling really shaky, where things are feeling really rocky, then perhaps it's time for you to really, instead of closing your eyes and pretending that everything is in balance, that everything is peaceful, that everything is harmonious, really having a look at that, which to me, that's what this crystal is all about, is just really having the courage to kind of look at the ugly side of things. And I mean, maybe, sometimes that's kind of what happens with family get-togethers. It's kind of what happens during the holidays, when it's sort of like all of those unprocessed emotions really come to the surface because people are trying to fit into a certain box for keeping the peace, right? And I mean, sometimes it's just really about showing up as you are, embracing the good and the not so great qualities that we all have, really, and just moving forward in the most authentic way that we can. And let's see how you can release this idea of being in denial by being flexible. Yeah, I think that with being flexible and flexibility kind of talks about so many different ways, right? Like it's about knowing that the weather can change at any moment. It's about knowing that nothing is set in stone, that everything is constantly flowing, but also knowing that as much as it might seem one way today, it might actually turn. And knowing that impermanence can also give you a sense of freedom, right? And I think that sometimes with peace, we kind of like to associate peace with freedom. Like if you have inner peace, then you have freedom. Maybe not, but I definitely feel like with being flexible in the way that you relate to people, this definitely talks about the way that maybe the way that you're conducting conversations with people in your family or within your workplace, right? Like I think that there's definitely some wisdom here when it comes to just loosening the grip a little bit on how or what your expectation is. Not so much how people behave, because you can't control that, but just how you're expecting to show up, right? Because I think that as long as we have self-governance on our own actions, then I think that we have a lot more control than we think we do. And let's see what is in store for you instead. Allowing. Radical acceptance says yes to reality at any given moment. And doesn't that sound like if you let go of the denial and you become a little bit more flexible, and really it's almost like there's sort of like a form of ego death that you kind of need to embrace for this week, where it's like, so it's really about allowing what's happening, but also surrendering. To me, this allowing, it almost speaks to a sense of surrender, a sense of ego death. And a sense of ego death always kind of come back to looking at and embracing what is, instead of wishing and hoping it was somehow different, or it would manifest differently, or it would shapeshift differently than what it actually is. And here's a self-care card for you. What I think will help you is connecting back to the sense of smell. Perhaps it's going to be connecting back to happy memories. Use the sense of smell that I think will help you guys in just really moving forward, right? But it's beyond moving forward. It's actually going to be about basically loosen up the grip on trying to control every situation, on every family get together, and on every work event, because that's not really what you're there to do. Sometimes it's also just allow. Here's what I'm getting. Allow people to surprise you. There you go. Let's see what the tarot has to say. We have the Three of Wands. We have the Six of Pentacles in reverse, and we have the Four of Wands also in reverse. I think that you're sort of sitting there in this beautiful home, in this beautiful setting, in this beautiful, peaceful environment, but then you're still sort of looking at it like, gosh, like they're probably having so much more fun than me, right? Like just having that sense of like, it's almost like not so much disappointment, but just sort of like not being content with what you have and not appreciating what you have or how far along you've come. And I think that that's kind of leaving you a little bit more empty, right? Or a little bit more just unsatisfied. And then we have the Six of Pentacles, where you're just sort of feeling like, I think that knowing that if you, maybe you were sort of looking at all of this to, I need my inner peace, I need my outer peace, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to really create that. And I'm going to be rigid about it, right? And if you introduce a little bit of flexibility in your life, then that can also kind of help you in other ways. So not so much helping you financially, but I think perhaps it's going to help you financially, but I think it's going to help you also almost like move to the next phase with what you do, allow you to kind of connect with the right people, allow you to show yourself in a light that you haven't shown yourself up to this point, And let's look at, last but not least, the Four of Wands. I think that this is all about creating connections, spending some time together with people. But again, like, we're kind of pointing back to pay attention to the energy, pay attention to like all the, like what you're smelling, perhaps spend some time on creating, you know, like a beautiful holiday decor, something where, you know, you create the vibe that you want to actually feel, but also allow it to become whatever it is, instead of being so attached to the outcome. You know, be attached to how you want to feel. So I'm getting that you want to right now connect back to the way that you feel emotionally. Perhaps some of you guys are really kind of just burnt out because maybe you were pouring way more into one area of your life, and it's making you feel like, oh my God, this is so much more fun over here, but let's just work on keeping the peace, right? So I think that if you kind of release this idea of being in denial of what peace really means to you, really define that for yourself, become a little bit more flexible, and bringing a little bit more adventure and fun back into your life. I think that that's kind of what's missing for most of you. And as you move into the holiday season, perhaps you can see in a micro way of how you can kind of instill that in your life. This is all I have for you, group number 2. I hope that this has resonated, and let's move on to group number 3. Last but not least, group number 3. Here is your beautiful blue lace agate. Hopefully you guys can see it. I feel like we need to talk about the layer, the depth of how you deal with your emotion, the depth of really not only acknowledging what you're feeling, but also really having the courage to kind of see it for what it is, or see it instead of wanting to kind of change it. Let's see what you guys need to release. You need to release your fear, but also, what are you scared of? What are the skeletons in your closet, right? Are we scared that we're going to be alone? Or are we scared that, you know, that we're going to be in the darkness, left out, or people or things will rip you into pieces, or the darkness will engulf you? Like, there's so many different layers here that I think you kind of need to, ultimately, most of us are scared of the darkness, but scared of the darkness that it will engulf you, that you will become the darkness. You know what I mean? I'm kind of getting that you need to release this idea that you need to live in fear in order for you to be happy. Like, it's almost like you're bracing yourself still, even though things have shifted globally and in all areas of life, you know, like a full year, even though things have shifted, but we're still kind of looking at life like, you know, like you're still in catastrophe. That's what I'm getting, that you're still in catastrophe mode, and you need to really have the courage to kind of look at how you're feeling emotionally and acknowledge them, rather than trying to shove them down and pretend like it doesn't exist. And here's how you can release it. You can release it by really connecting to something greater than you, by really connecting to your intuition, by praying, by doing the practices. I'm kind of getting some of you really need to return back to the mat, back to your practices, back to the things that were healing for you, that was actually helping you. So I think that if you have the courage to face your fears and really release them, and maybe challenge them, right? Maybe challenge them through your faith. Maybe look at it like, really, my fear can be a form of a test, that I'm being tested by the universe of how deep my faith is in myself and in the universe itself, right? So, and it's not so much, I'm not disregarding your fears, but I am challenging them, because a lot of times when you have the courage to really question how true that is for you, you will probably find that it's not as catastrophe driven as you may think, and really looking at everything from both ends, right? Really having the courage to really look at your emotions and look at the way that you're feeling, but look at also challenge the way that you are doing things, and ask yourself, is this still effective? Here's what is in store for you instead. If you're willing to challenge it, you'll find your freedom. You can break free. You can break free. Find the cage, break free from the cage, right? And open the gates. But that happens through faith. It happens through. It doesn't happen any other way. I feel like some of you are living in so much fear. So much fear with the pandemic, so much fear with what options you have, so much fear of what the future holds, right? What's going to happen. And you're projecting things that are not based on reality, but perhaps they're based on something that someone said that you have no idea who they are. They're just literally presenting you with information. And sometimes that can also be overload. And right now, Spirit is asking you to return back to your own discernment. That's ultimately what this reading is about, is to return back to your own discernment and really decide for yourself what is actually true. Here's what can help you hydrate, but more importantly, to me, this is a little bit more than just hydration. This is also about really just taking care of yourself. Really knowing when you're running on empty. Taking care of yourself ultimately is eating well, sleeping well, managing your energy around you. Hydrating will actually fuel not only your intuition, but also it helps your brain function a little bit better. So definitely hydrate. It will help you. Let's take a look at what the tarot has to say. So we have the Eight of Pentacles in reverse, which is exactly what we're doing right now. We're shooting a video. We have the Knight of Pentacles and we have the Eight of Wands also in reverse. So let's unpack. I feel like you want to be out there and create and share all of the things and connect with people. But when it comes right down to it, I'm kind of getting that you guys are like thinking about maybe releasing something for business, like something like a side hustle. You know what I mean? I think that you have that dream, but at the same time, you're also getting triggered. Like something is keeping you locked up, right? And I think that it's a lot of it, I think, has a lot more to do with just really having faith in yourself, having confidence in your own ability that you can do this, having confidence that you are made to do this, that you can do this. I don't know what's with the clock. Anyway, I digress. Now, I feel like with the Knight of Pentacles, I feel like this is favorable. Like, I feel like if you can kind of lean back on your faith a little bit more, then you're going to be able to receive the good news and you can kind of move forward. And I see it as favorable, but I also think that you need to kind of release this. You need to overcome this, or you need to just literally just release your grip a little bit on all of your fears and on all of the inner stories. And if you do, you find freedom. And when you do, then it's going to happen fast. It can happen fast, but you need to kind of go through this whole process first. So I think that it's all favorable. I think that if you're thinking about maybe throughout the holidays, like you're thinking about like tapping into your side hustle, or you're simply just willing, even if you're just at a point, right? When you're willing to have the courage to have an honest look at your fears, I think that in itself is a tremendous effort. Look at what is actually scaring you within your relationships. What is scaring you within your career? What does that next level really look like and feel like for you? Have the courage to take a look at that and have an honest look at it, rather than just being in denial about it or suppressing your emotions, like pretending that it doesn't exist. This is all I have for you, group number 3. And stay tuned until the very end so I can pull a couple of collective cards for all of you guys that I think will help you. So let's go. All right. First of all, we made it, you guys. So first of all, we made it. So holla, holla, holla. Okay. I don't know why we said that. I wanted to see what can actually help you guys as a collective for this week energetically. I know that right now things are happening with Venus. Venus is about to go retrograde. I also know that we're still probably going to be feeling the effects of the new moon and the effects of the lunar eclipse and all of the vibes. It's eclipse season. Here's what's gonna help you for this week. Tap into creation, start crafting up some ideas of what you want to do, of what that ideal day really looks like for you. We talked a little bit about self-care and what can help you getting into the holiday season, getting into the holiday mood, the holiday vibes, but also start taking steps towards the things that you actually want to create and realizing that, you know, you always have that next step. You always have the tomorrow, and you have the key. You have the key, which is really just to say that at any moment when things are not in alignment for you, you can always shift the energy just by making a different choice. This is all I have for you. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, you can give me a thumbs up. You can also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you on my next one. Bye.